I'm 30 years old. Not one of my friends has children. Zero. No one. No one's having kids. Do you know how hard you need to abuse a mammal to make them not have children? like for real. Let's step here back a moment, right?
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah, look, GDP goes up. People have enough food, and whatever. No one's having kids, and this is across the world. This is across both the West, the East, everywhere. It's happening.
No job, no income, no house, no spouse. These four ingredients have become the defining traits of an entire generation, and it's a sad state of affairs. But while many, including me, have talked extensively about the harder economic times that have stifled younger generations' economic prospects, we cannot also ignore the deep social changes that have led us to this sad state of affairs. Now, I won't name drop, social media and tell you it's all because of that damn phone. No, with this video, I want to delve much deeper and have an in-depth discussion why the most connected generation on record is also the loneliest generation on record, and how this situation we've dug ourselves in is having dire impacts on our development. Now, coming of age is usually met with rituals that initiate teenagers, into adulthood, children into adulthood, and they do so by equipping them with the tools of life. That's what they need. That's what the rituals are for. But if you've been paying attention to the mental health matters segment of the internet, you'll probably have realized that much of the complaints for this cohort Gen Zs who are coming of age, much of those complaints are simply just detailing how they're ill-equipped and unprepared to deal with the actual issues of life. And this is disregarded because they're told that they have the advantages, like, for example, higher university graduation rates that other generations didn't have. So, well, it turns out for this one in particular, street smarts does triumph book smarts because, again, life's most important lessons can't really be boiled down to a classroom session, 35 minutes. From dating and relationships to money and career decisions, young people are stuck in this transitionary state, this period, because the last decade plus of their lives has been about cramming formulas to pass some tests for some artificial grade at the expense of, learning how to make decisions on their own. But the narrative sold as a solution to them in this transitionary state is that you just need to lock in and make more money. Make money and make more of it. And once you have all this money, then you will start living. This is just another way to get you to sideline your own priorities, to sideline the important pieces of your life puzzle in service of a corporation and the government, the same way you were in service of the education system, instead of taking time to actually figure out your own life and figure out your own priorities your own way. So in the same way, I'm gonna take you back to school. In the same way, the school system needed students to churn out obedient employees and taxpayers. Right now, young people, the propaganda surrounding them is them being shafted into this dead-end jobs and addictive habits for, some, God-forsaken time in an unknown future when they might be rich. But that's not going to happen. So what results is this immediate gratification. This results that it leads to just a shallow life. And a shallow life just adds on to the heap of mental health issues that they already have. And we can see this mainly evidenced by the lack of purpose and fulfillment. No matter the class, no matter, the geography and so on, there's just sort of like a zombie-like epidemic of people just floating around. They even had a name for it. They named it, part of it, the Gen Z stare. Yeah, so anyway, what I'm trying to say, it's not just about money, and we have to look at the social side of it, not just the economic. And it's a fact when we look at this now in this video, it's a fact that society has shifted from a we mode of operation to a me mode of operation. So here's the thing, that just doesn't sound good. I actually have the data to prove it to you. Let's investigate the case of home ownership and marriage. I like to call it spouses and houses. It's a great title I found in an article that is in the description, just linked in the description. So I saw this graph on Reddit. That's the first graph, and I couldn't find the original source. I ended up though going through quite an informative rabbit hole. So first of all, it's clear that the number of adults that are both married and homeowners has dramatically reduced, not just those under 30. But graphs aside, you have probably realized this in your own life, in your own personal life. Just look around you. Look at, we don't need scientists to tell us this. We can actually see it. But on further investigation from the scientists is that we can see that it's not just inflation and shifts in the labor market that are often pinpointed as the two main economic obstacles. It's also that the culture has changed. So the biggest reason for declining home ownership, the houses, isn't actually home prices. Now, this was quite a shocker for me. It's a factor, yes, but it's not the biggest. According to Scott Winship, I hope I'm saying it right, who wrote this article for the Institute for Family Studies, the biggest reason for the 18% drop in young adults' home ownership rate is the massive 30-point fall in marriage. So before we continue, quick disclaimer, I use a lot of research that's published in the US because they have such deep research papers and studies, sometimes for decades, sometimes for even centuries. And the important concept in research, the reason why I continue to use them, is something called generalizability. Generalizability. Tough word. Anyway, it just simply means that when the sampling is done right and when the analysis is done right, the results of the findings of a certain research can also apply to another population. And simply what I'm doing with this is trying to find an explanation for some of the situations that we find ourselves in. Even though we don't have the data, even though we're halfway across the world, you will see the same trend lines and correlations. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now back to houses and spouses. So in 1980, the home ownership rate among 25 to 34-year-olds was 54%. This dropped to 36% in 2025, while the marriage rates for the same cohort dropped from 67% to 37% in 2025. So now seeing this, one might obviously conclude that younger generations are not getting married as much due to the soaring house prices, especially right now in a post-COVID environment where everything is just harsh. Yeah, everything is just, they don't want to say it's a recession, but it is a recession. And here's the thing, though, despite all of that, we will rarely ask the other side of the coin. And this is pretty much, might it not be the fact that the family unit has been shattered, and that is what is reducing household formation? So there's two arguments for this. This data can bring up two arguments, and we're going to see why it's the fall in marriage, like Scott told us, that has led to a drop in home ownership among young adults, and not the economic factors like we often try to think. Here's the truth. Money is a simple answer to even the most complicated of questions. Or I should say that it seems like an answer because part of growing up and coming of age is realizing that there's some problems that money just can't solve. This is the social side that I keep on saying has been robbed from young people's development. I mean, think about it. Much of dating rhetoric nowadays has become a matter of exchange of resources and not a matter of combination of resources. So we're not necessarily looking to build a better life together. We're looking to how will you better my life more than the next person will. So out of this, there has emerged a notion that houses, property, cars, assets, good jobs, all of those have to be acquired in line, in sequential order or whatever. They have to be purchased before we even move in or confirm anything together. So here's the interesting thing. We like to think that it was much better and much easier in the olden days, of which it was to some degree. But then there is another degree, the other side of the coin, that we cannot ignore. And this is what Scott Winship showed in his research. He showed that in 1960, 83% of newlywed Americans, that's those 1 year into marriage, were renters, which is quite interesting. Now, the figure has dropped, which is a good thing, to 70% in 1980 and 58% in 2023. So an overall rise in home ownership, we can say that's a good thing. But here's the thing. The data is never that simple. You have to read into the data, and that's what we're doing here. So there's a series of decisions that might have led to this trend, like, for example, people marrying older, especially due to the increased enrollment in higher education, university that we've been talking about. We have to also consider the fact that the median age for marriage in 1959 was 22.5 years old for men and 20.2 years old for women. These were the all-time lows, in terms of age. Right now, it's more of like in the 30s. So with that, there's other major thing that we cannot really ignore, and that is most of the time when you're looking at your peers and they have a lot more money than you, it's not just a matter of them doing better, it's them tapping into what the British like to call the bank of mom and dad. So we're now living in an inheritocracy where there's a class of millennials and Gen Zs in the 20s and 30s who are heavily reliant on advances from their parents and grandparents to move forward in life. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, but essentially you have to remember this when you're looking through the data so that you just don't come to a silly conclusion. So nonetheless, at least they've achieved this significant milestones that we're talking about, because the harsh reality hidden in the data and most of the propaganda that you will hear, the harsh reality on the ground is that most singles don't own houses. Now, we're just talking about houses here, but then this will reflect in other areas of their life in terms of assets and doing financially well. Why is this a really important thing? Because let's look at this. Let's look at these two cases, between men and women, and what the media has fed them. On the guy's side, red pill propaganda has convinced men that locking in for years, decades, avoiding relationships till you're in your prime, and that's usually sort of defined between the age of 35 to 40 years old. They've sold that as an appropriate lifestyle, but what this does, and we can see this clearly, is that it leads to a segment of socially awkward middle-aged men who often just end up using the little hard-earned cash they have to just splurge on escorts and prostitutes. So on the other end of the aisle, girl boss propaganda has deluded women into sacrificing majority of their main childbearing years for exchange for working for corporations and governments that care only about making a profit and collecting taxes. And a large part of the media that is now targeted towards young women, it retells the same story of avoiding relationships. It's the same script, but this time it places the blame for all the world's evils on men. So we have these two people who would have met, come together and formed families, but then what this has done is that On the women's side, it has led to socially insecure aging ladies who just join the same bandwagon of casual sex and hookups. And we've already said that the men were doing that. And so this, you'll notice that they're not coming together, yeah? There's no combination, there's separation. And so because of this, a huge gender divide reveals itself in the data. And it's not just in what we've talked about in terms of lower marriage rates and lower birth rates, but it's also in other points of data that we can see in terms of the rise in number of dating apps and STIs. So the common thread amongst this media, like we've said, is that each gender has been sold the lie that staying single for longer is a better financial decision. But like we've seen, the data says otherwise. And this is why it's important to always look at the data. Let me summarize it this way. Married couples, even young ones, outperform single men and single women due to the compounding of their collective efforts, the combination of their resources. It's easier for two people to move a couch than one. And it's easier, just to finish up on this, achieve life's milestones. And we know this, we have known this together. It's easier to do it together. So another question comes in, why have we forgotten this? Michael Barron, a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, summarized it so simply, like an expert, a true mark of an expert. And I had to share his answer with you. He wrote that America before World War II was a nation of more people than rooms. Large extended families often lived together and sex was typically reserved for marriage. But in post-war America, a nation of renters became a nation of owners. We've seen this in the data. Add on the debilitating effects of the 60s sexual revolution, which glamorized premarital and extramarital sex with innovations like the birth control pill and no-fault divorce, and now you have a nation with more rooms than people. We are now seeing a revision, because history likes to rhyme. We're now seeing a revision to pre-war America with the number of 18 to 34-year-olds living with their parents higher than those in the same age bracket but living with a spouse. The exception right now is that most young people don't need marriage to access sex. A litany of pornography, social media, addictions, fast casual dating, and hookup culture has numbed the social development of an entire generation, and this is all across the world. So no, it's not just about the money. The culture has changed, and that's what people are not realizing, and it hasn't changed for the better. One of the longest studies on adult life was conducted by Harvard for nearly 80 years, and the results confirm what we know deep down in our hearts to be true. The study began tracking the physical and mental health metrics of 268 Harvard sophomores in 1938 to find out how life's experiences affect health and aging over time. One of the findings is a quote that you might have seen 1,000 times plastered everywhere the minute it came out, but I need to say it one more time so that I hammer the point of this video into your brain. Robert Waldinger, I hope I'm saying his name right, noted that loneliness kills. It's just as powerful as alcoholism or smoking. The study by Harvard revealed that close relationships are more important, yes, more important than money and fame in your health and longevity outcomes. Those ties, I'm quoting, those ties protect people from life's discontents, help to delay mental and physical decline, and are better predictors of long and happy lives than social class, IQ, or even genes. The study further showed that the level of satisfaction with relationships in midlife is a better predictor of healthy aging. Robert also said that the people who are most satisfied with relationships in their 50s, while they're healthiest in their 80s. And that's something. So despite the Ankh trend that has Gen Zs terrified of even just turning 30, there is no such thing as being too late to incorporate any of their findings into your life, any of these findings into your life. Literally, this same Harvard study debunked the idea that people's personalities are set in stone, especially at the age of 30, like what is going around. They revealed that those who were lost in their 20s turned out to live long and fulfilling lives. So, what's the rush? Dr. George Valiant's book, Aging Well, synthesized the study's results into 6 main factors that I want you to prioritize, because if you've made it this far into the video, you are clearly looking forward to living a longer, more fulfilling life. I list them down. It's actually quite simple. The first one is remain physically active. The second one is watch your habits. The third one is practice having a mature demeanor. The fourth one is maintaining a healthy weight. Number 5 is noticing that a stable marriage is important. And number 6 is to never stop learning. I hope you learned something new in this video. I would like to hear your thoughts on this matter and your own personal additions, anything that I might have missed in the comments. And please do send this to a friend who needs to hear it the most. Till next time, take care of your relationships. They're the main thing taking care of you.